So, Game Freak really went and made 2 car engine Pokemon. Huh. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a hater of Objectmon. In fact, more often than not, I'm defending them. Like, what would you rather have? Another edgelord wolf with magic elemental power for no clear reason like every other Pokemon clone? Or something deep and interesting like keys? You are not helping me. So, in short, remember, Pokemon is a Japanese franchise, and it's in Japan that we find the common folklore of the Tsukumogami, a tool, item, or object that over a long period of time, often a century, it gains a spirit of its own and comes to life, leading to the mini-object Yokai, and in turn leading to many of the object Pokemon. In fact, the OG object Pokemon, Voltorb, is just a living Pokeball, and it's Pokemon 100. Like the 100 years it takes a tool to become a Tsukumogami. That said, when it comes to in-game lore, the Revavrooms are a bit different. According to the Pokédex, it is said that this Pokemon was born when an unknown poison Pokemon entered and inspirited an engine left at a scrap processing factory. So it's like when a cat crawls into a car's engine compartment from underneath. Not a very safe place for a cat, they often die there. In the Pokemon world's case, it could be a Toxel, a Shroodle, or maybe even a Ghastly. They crawl or float into the engine at a scrapyard and get stuck. Then it slowly starves to death within the engine, and its soul, too, got stuck. And now it is possessing or inspiriting the engine, leading to the Steel-type Pokemon, Varoom. Though seriously, of all of the things to get stuck in, a tiny, one-cylinder, small internal combustion engine, like the ones you see in lawnmowers, small generators, go-karts, and motorcycles? Oh wait, motorcycles, yeah. Now then, I am a bit of a statue figurine nerd, even outside of the context of being a PokeTuber. I've been picking up statues of my favorite characters and mecha for over a decade now, and I've got some friends who are super into the models you build yourself, but then they leave the boxes in the closet after they move out. Haha! But now, I know the perfect gift subscription for them, or for yourself, or for any fan of Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, Transformers, or just look at all these options. This is today's sponsor, FanHome, a new brand with one clear mission: to inspire fans with innovative content, high-quality build-up models, and exclusive collections. With FanHome, you choose your model or collection and subscribe, so every month you receive their exclusive magazines with exclusive content all about your favorite franchise, and also receive many parts of an immaculately detailed model, 4 assembly stages worth. I've got the first chunk of the legendary USS Enterprise from Star Trek: The Next Generation here, and even with just these first chunks, you can tell just the scale that this is gonna be. Many of these models are huge and hefty, and this is a great way to spread out the enjoyment of building it and having something to look forward to every month. It's especially exciting when you get the exclusive gifts included in the subscription. Sound cool? Then I definitely encourage you to check them out with the link below, and use the promo code Lockstin for some even sweeter deals. And a big thanks to FanHome for supporting us. So this Pokemon was introduced in Paldea, based on the Iberian Peninsula, which is also known as the motorcycle capital of the world. Hence also this region's obsession with riding Cyclozar, and the box legendaries being lizards with attributes of an old school and futuristic motorcycle. And plus, I mean, Spain loves their motorcycles, while only having the 4th highest motorcycle ownership per capita in Europe. When it comes to city metropolitan areas, specifically Madrid and Barcelona have the 2nd and 1st most. And then there's MotoGP, the International Superbike Grand Prix, which is headquartered in Madrid, Spain. Biker gang culture is also a big factor here. In fact, the biggest and most famous biker gang in the world, the Hells Angels, were founded in the US, but quickly found members in Spain as soon as they went international. Spain was one of the first international countries they were in. I guess all I'm really trying to say here is Spain loves their motorcycles, which in turn means they have a lot of them, which in turn means they have scrap yards full of them too. Fun fact, while in Spain, Germany, and Eastern Europe you can often find big scrap yards full of motorcycles like this, in Sweden they actually managed to recycle 80 to 100% of a motorcycle's materials. So if we ever get a Scandinavian region, there should not be any Varooms. Now, I'm sure I don't need to explain the reasoning behind its steel poison typing. Engines are made of metal, and in the process of burning gasoline for power, you get poisonous exhaust, both poisoning the atmosphere with greenhouse gases leading to global climate change, and it being poisonous just in general, hence this handy car hack. By simply connecting a hose to your exhaust pipe and leading it into the window inside of a car, you can get rid of everyone inside it. Yeah, they die from the exhaust fumes because they're poisonous, and we're all just shooting that poison into the atmosphere like it's no big deal. We're like, it's not my problem anymore, I'm just driving. Yeet. Wait, that was my steering wheel, I needed that. Except then, considering how car engines work, it's not just yeet, it's Looking at how Revavroom and Varoom moves, I can't help but think of all of the whistles and exhaust pipes on Steamboat Willie. Old cartoons were a lot more bouncy, stretchy, and organic. This Rubberhose style made cars a bit difficult to get accurately without looking boring or strange because of how rigid they are. So instead, cartoons of the time period just did the opposite. They just made them as stretchy, bouncy, and extra as they could. Did they just kidnap her? But they were done this way so much that these extra cartoony cars became emblematic of the tunes of the time period. Hence the Rubberhose car Heartless in Kingdom Hearts, for instance. But a bonus fact! While France and the UK make the most animation in Europe these days, in the late Rubberhose era, Spain was getting way into it. Francoist Spain, even. If you recall from our video on Palafin, Spain, under the dictatorship of Francisco Franco, had very little in terms of media from outside of Spain. And like both comic and boring books, animated cartoons had to be heavily censored, and could only be made if they were either pro-nationalism and/or pro-church, lest the producers risk jail time. But the demand for cartoons was there, so various Spanish studios made them, leading to many award-winning Rubberhose-esque works, such as, odd, but okay. There's a nice innocent one. This one's just ugly. This one was even considered a masterpiece at the time. Why does pro-church and pro-nationalism always go hand in hand with racism and colonization? I just answered my own question. It's Spain we're talking about. On the global stage, though, these weren't anything to write home about. They were just okay boomer tunes. But with that last tangent out of the way, let's evolve Varoom into Revavroom and talk about those names. They are very simple. Varoom is the onomatopoeia for the sound of a revving engine. Yes, a revving engine, hence also Revavroom. Though there's a theoretical double meaning here. If it really is an inspirited engine of a Pokemon who died inside of an engine, then it is functionally a revenant, a type of undead, essentially. Revavroom's a revenant that goes rev. Or perhaps it's yet another type of yokai. The Oborogoruma could be seen as another Tsukumagami, as it too is an inanimate object given life. It is a living oxen-pulled cart, and one that only appears on misty nights. Perhaps it brings the spooky mist itself. Of course, Revavroom is nothing like this, but say we replace the mist with smog, and now consider the more modern interpretations of this yokai, like Persona just turned it into an old possessed car, and Power Rangers turned it into a possessed taxi monster thing. Really, cars are just the next step up from drawn carriages. I mean, in English, car originally was just a shortening of carriage. So any yokai wanting to keep up with the technology of the world would make moves into becoming something like this. And that's before even getting into the whole trope of spooky possessed monster cars, a whole thing on its own. So now, what effects did evolution have on this Pokemon? Well, Revavroom got a lot bigger first off. In fact, its Pokedex category reflects this. It went from a single-sill Pokemon to a multi-sill Pokemon, which is funny and amazing, because like going from a single-celled organism to a multi-celled organism is like a huge step in real-world evolution. But here they are referring to the number of cylinders in an engine. Most cars have 4 to 6 cylinders in their engines, and while there is more to it, obviously, more cylinders tends to mean more power, fast, goodness. I am not a car guy, but I at least know that much. The Revavroom itself looks a lot like the shiny engines that stick out of the hoods on hot rods, a style of automobile that came about around the same time as the golden age of animation. And even the rocks and minerals that Revavroom attaches itself to have these flared back bits, resembling the behinds of many popular cars from the 1950s, and even more modern sports cars. And plus, it's easy to see why motorcycle culture often bleeds into grease monkey car culture, and sure enough, Spain does have quite the lucrative lucrative automobile industry, the second highest in Europe actually, only behind Germany, but even then, many British and German car companies like Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz use Spanish car factories to make some of their cars. Even the American Ford company uses the Spanish factories for their cars made in Europe. Kinda ironically, Spain is Europe's Mexico in more ways than one, as this is a similar practice to how all American-made cars and trucks are still made partially in Mexican factories. But back to car culture. The whole concept of Grand Prix racing started in Spain's next-door neighbor, France. And of course, we can't talk about Revavroom without talking about how Team Star uses them. Team Star manages to convince their Revavrooms to leave their rock collection that they've carved into the shape of a sports car behind and attach themselves to these insane STARMOBILES instead. And they are flashy! And Game Freak did not just pull this idea from their butt. The STARMOBILES are based on Decatura, these super flashy and light bedazzled trucks designed to be as visually busy and over the top as legally possible. They're like Decora fashion girls, but for manly men's mans. Decatura culture got more popular after Toei began releasing a decology, that's like a trilogy but with 10, of movies called Toraku Yaro, or Truck Rascals. The main characters liked decorating their trucks, and they just got more and more ridiculous with the decor as time went. And actually, since then, similarly decorated trucks have appeared in other countries, so there's some fun regional variant material for you of the STARMOBILES. Though interestingly, the STARMOBILES already come in 5 variations. The Fire-type Shader, Dark-type Sagan, Poison-type Navi, Fighting-type Calf, and Fairy-type Ruchba STARMOBILEs. They pretty much are just different paint jobs, but it's still interesting that they can be all those types. And those names are so weird and random seeming, right? Until, that is, you remember they are STARMOBILEs, which belong to Team Star, whose leader is codenamed Cassiopeia, and Cassiopeia is a constellation made of stars. Those stars have names, and yeah, those STARMOBILEs are just named after the 5 stars in the constellation. It's still cool though, as is the fact that all of those different STARMOBILEs have their own signature moves. Wicked, noxious, blazing, magical combat torque! It sounds really cool when it's all together like that, but no, it's just those words followed by torque each individually. The trucks just kind of do a spin out and slam into your Pokemon with the energy of the associated type though, but the spinning is a good use of the word torque here, since torque is not only a measurement of a truck's pulling power, but it's specifically how you measure the force that can cause an object to rotate around an axis. Pokemon and their double meanings, I love them. I love them all. I love Palafin too until it becomes its new form, which is kind of gross, but if you want to learn all about how Palafin fits into Paldea, because it was ruled by a hero Delphine at one point, you can click on this video to watch and learn about that, and to never stop using your noggin.